Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk9527. Cryptopunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we've got Punk7407. He's a 2 Atty with an iconic beanie in classic shades. He's an avid NFT collector, member of Fingerprints DAO, and a professional shitposter. Please welcome my brother from another mother, Phantom Scribbler. Phantom, welcome to the show, mate.
Hey Maxwell, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. Been looking forward to this chat. Just been seeing a lot of your interesting posts, provocative posts, and your taste in art has piqued my attention. So looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, happy to talk about it. Yeah, let's dive in.
Well, why don't we just start? Why Phantom Scribbler? How did you arrive at that?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a pretty stupid story, but back when I was like 14 in school, sitting down at a chair and just like written on it was like, "I am the Phantom Scribbler," and I was like, "All right, who the hell is this guy?" And didn't think anymore. And then I went to the toilet like a few days later, or whatever, and written on the wall in the cubicle was like, "I am the Phantom Scribbler." I'm like, God, this guy's everywhere. Like, and then later as the year went on, we're in different classrooms and sitting down in another chair, and it's like written in the corner, "I am the Phantom Scribbler," and I was like, okay, he's everywhere. And then I realized, wait, maybe it's just like it's a group of people trolling, and they're like, no one is the Phantom Scribbler, and everyone just pretends to be. And I never found out the identity of the person or if they existed. And then when I wanted to create an account, I said, all right, I'm going to be the Phantom Scribbler as well. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Stupid story.
Almost as mysterious as Satoshi himself, mate.
Yeah,
it's a good one. I sort of detect an Irish accent there. Maybe you can just share a little bit about your background and how you sort of arrived in sort of Web3 as a start.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you guessed correctly. I am Irish. So my background is I studied maths in university, and shortly after graduating, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with myself. I'm fairly into fitness, was thinking about going down the sport route, but wanted to figure out how to make some money, and spoke to 2 other friends in my course, and I saw it was possible to arbitrage trade some horse races that were happening locally. So the opportunity to bet both sides, the outcome of a horse winning and not to win with different bookmakers, and dove down that rabbit hole for a while. So that's why I started in the whole trading world, basically, and did that for a while until basically got blocked by every bookmakers. They're absolute cowboys, and if you have any sort of edge or know what you're doing, they'll just cut your account. And that was a bit of a disaster. And that's led me into crypto. It's so unsophisticated. Like a friend of mine basically showed me Bitcoin USD chart years ago when Bitcoin was maybe $1,100, and was like, I don't know about this, but it looks like it just keeps going up. And I was like, okay, I'll buy some. So not very sophisticated, but the only reason I did that was because I knew it was possible to arbitrage trade different discrepancies between bookmaker exchanges. And back then in 2017, there wasn't as much competition, right? It was, you could like do it manually. You didn't really have to have the whole system automated. And then from there, that's how I got into crypto and actually learned about the tech and became more interested in the technology. Initially financially motivated, secondary then understanding the tech and how it was. And I was like, oh, this really is something cool and innovative. And then late 2020 came across Cryptopunks, and a lot of people I look up to and respect in the space were repping them. And I thought, hey, like I'd like to own one too. And that's basically it. Yep, that's my background.
Awesome. So, all right, let me get this straight. So, you have a mathematical sort of background, so you're pretty good with numbers, probability, statistics, and the like.
Yeah.
And then you go ahead.
I would say though, right? I'll say that I'm not sure how beneficial any of that is, right? Because think like the bet. I honestly, right? You can do all the quantitative analysis you like, and at the end of the day, the best investment decision of 2021 was buy the monkey, right? Just buy the monkey picture. Like I could have given you a 20-page report and look at the analytics on the amount of unique wallets created that are trading on OpenSea and all this stuff. Like, no, just buy the monkey. That's all you
No,
have to do. So I don't know how beneficial it is sometimes.
no, amazing. And so okay, so you've got a mathematics background, you've got a good handle on numbers, and then you moved into horse racing. I think sort of gambling there.
Yeah.
Were you using a lot of your mathematical probabilities and skill sets to
No,
apply to
honestly,
sort of?
it did not go far beyond multiplication and division. Like there was no difficult mathematics involved. In fact, the most difficult part was actually managing the accounts and stuff, not the actual maths itself. That was quite basic. So
Yeah.
I would say that yes, when you finish school, the math, nothing beyond that, just multiplication and division. Honestly,
And so it was just trading and I guess placing bets just was a natural sort of gut feel for you, and or is that
well,
did
no.
you
So
have
I
some
was
sort of some bet?
no, like so I was arbitrage trading, so I was covering all outcomes. So I was always trying to realize constantly it could be as low as 1-2% you're guaranteeing on each bet, right? Because you're covering the opposite side as well.
Right.
uh, of course, like you obviously there's trial and error involved. Sometimes you place one side of the bet, when it comes to the other side you realize there's a cap on the max bet, and so you're in trouble there. Or so rounded up there, like I started with about maybe €400 or so, um, and just slowly built my bankroll up from there.
That's
And
cool.
then like you think you're a genius, right? And then I think just what that has taught me, which has translated really well into crypto, is the risk appetite and being comfortable losing money as well, right? Because like one morning, I'm there in my underpants eating a bowl of Cocoa Pops on some Russian ice hockey event, and you lock in both sides of the bet. You think you're profitable, you think you have it tied up, and then you refresh um, your accounts afterwards and both bets lose, and it's because different bookmakers have different terms and conditions when it comes to overtime in ice hockey, and I just got caught off guard there and lost basically everything I'd built up. And then you're just like, banging your head against the wall, realizing that you're not as smart as you thought you were, and you have to start all over again. And then you just realize that you just don't touch Russian ice hockey ever again. So these are the things we learn from the mistakes we make. But yeah, and then and a similar story happened in 2018, I guess. Ran it up with a lot of shit coins in 2017, and then just went minus 95, 98, 99% in the next bear market. So yeah, I guess one of my, I would say, I think my risk appetite is quite high, and that has served me well in the
Yeah,
past, although it is decreasing over time as I'm getting a bit older.
absolutely. And so okay, so you went through that 2017, 2018 sort of peak euphoria, ICO, Bitcoin sort of pump there. What was it about crypto and I guess uh, NFTs that sort of drew you back in and into the space?
Oh, well, I actually think it was very much like I always felt like it was the Wild West, and it was you versus everybody else you're trading against, right? And I never ever felt a sense of community, or that we were really in this together. I felt like it was people trading, trying to make money, basically, and that was it.
Mm.
While of course I understand the original cypherpunk ethos of self sovereignty and being a sovereign individual, and totally agree with those values, but it felt like the whole trading side of it, like shitcoins were just shitcoins. Like everything was a shitcoin besides Bitcoin, in my opinion, at the time.
Mm.
Until I had that euphoria moment or the eureka moment when I first used Uniswap, and I was like, okay, maybe ETH isn't a shitcoin because I can actually make trades here while having custody of my funds without having to rely on a third party. Obviously, I can read the smart contract and audit that, and I thought this is genuinely a breakthrough. And another eureka moment when I used Aave for the first time to take out a loan, and realized like I would never get approval from a bank for a loan. Like there's just no way. Whereas from the comfort of my bedroom, um, I can do this in 2 or 3 minutes without having to pick up the phone or do any paperwork or anything. which is just so much more convenient. And I guess the community element then came from NFTs when Justin Aversano was, I think he was involved with G Money, raising money for a nonprofit for supporting artists. And we were renting billboards in New York and London. And I took part in that, and I got to know Justin, and bought one of his Twin Flames pieces at the time, purely because I really liked Justin and I wanted to support his project. Of course, I really liked his photography too, but because he was such a nice guy and he was so helpful in getting together the community. And that's when I realized, wow, there's actually more to this than just, trying to get one over on each other. Like, you can actually, there's, it was the first time I thought that there's going to be genuinely online communities formed, right? That I can have ownership of an asset and get behind each other. Yeah. But until then, I was super cynical and skeptical, and still am in general to most NFTs.
Amazing. So you took on a very mercenary approach up until that NFT community moment, and then when you sort of started delving into a little bit of Uniswap and DeFi through Aave, where you sort of felt like, hang on, there is actually some real utility, some real foundational principles here that are going to be changing.
Yeah, big time. Like, until then, everything in my mind was a shitcoin besides Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And now everything is a shitcoin besides Bitcoin and Ethereum until proven otherwise. Yeah.
And just when did you come across that? Was that sort of DeFi summer?
That was leading into DeFi summer, early 2020. Yeah. I was lucky to be just pure luck with timing. It's like, I actually think what traders need to do is identify their strengths and double down on those rather than focus too much on improving their weaknesses. Genuinely, like, I know what I'm good at, and I have a fair idea now what I'm not good at, and so rather than trying to get better at those things, I just completely avoid them and don't do them, and focus on my skills. And I think genuinely, and this might sound stupid, but I think feeling FOMO can be good and can be profitable once you feel FOMO before everybody else. So it's like, once you're one of the first to feel FOMO, that's okay, right? Because you jump in before everybody else piles in, right? And I just started seeing Uniswap too often on my timeline on Twitter, and I just said, right, enough of this. I need to actually sit down and figure out what the hell is going on. Like, initially I was like, dexes sound confusing, not sure I'm up for figuring out what's going on. And then you just have to set aside like 2, 3, 4 hours of your time and watch a couple of YouTube videos. And like, 'cause this thing has to be self-taught, right? Like, almost everything you do here, you have to teach yourself. I think people just want to like pay for a course where everything is shown for them how to do, but like, that's not how it works. Like, you need to figure it out for yourself. That's basically what I did, and that's how I stumbled across Uniswap.
That DeFi summer, I think I had a very similar experience to you. Uniswap was a really magical experience in the sense of, you're trying to unpack what this actually is. What is a decentralized exchange? What is liquidity? Adding liquidity mean? How do I add an LP? How do I earn fees from it? And then once you sort of wrap your head around that, and obviously what the big thing at the time was impermanent loss, right? So which pairs to sort of, and I got wrecked a couple times on that too, but it was a learning
experience. I love the way
it
was called impermanent as well, because it's just like, it's not real until you actually sell. It's like, okay, well, I'm impermanently down bad on my bags, like, but it's not real until
but I mean, just going through that process, it rewrote a lot of things for me to know to be true in the real world, right? In terms of how things should be traded. Going to an exchange and doing a one-sided trade, and they sort of manage that for you. But now it's like absolutely sort of trustless using a non-custodial wallet. I hadn't really experienced that before up until that point. And
one thing I do struggle with, right, is I love it. I'm all for it. I think it's brilliant. And I think, like, when you think about all the bad things that have happened in the last 10 days or whatever in crypto, and you realize that the the point of failure here was the centralization, let's say, of people's assets. And then you think, okay, well, perhaps if everybody self custodies, would, like, some people have the belief that if everybody just self custodies, this wouldn't be an issue. And then, well, if we rewind 6 months ago and you look at all the phishing scams and hacks that NFT holders fell to when they were just approving malicious transactions from their ledger without knowing. So it's like, I get both sides of the argument, but I think what should be there is just the ability and to self custody is super important, right? Just to have that option if you really want to. And I would encourage it, but there is an issue of education, and the user experience is quite difficult, I would say. Like for a complete beginner, like there is room to, but that will come, I think. I do believe that will come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess just for listeners, the last 10 days was in relation to the FTX drama, because I know this podcast might be a little bit later on down the track when we release this. Cool. So anyway, Phantom, what I guess how are you spending your days? Like, what are you working on? What do you sort of find interesting these days?
Right now, my focus is learning as much as I can about zero knowledge proofs. Because, right, I think this is, again, it could be totally wrong. Like, by the way, I'm a complete one man band. Like, I'm like, I could like, do not. There's zero financial advice or anything here, right? But my current frame of mind is that we want the transparency of the chain, right? We want to be able to audit what's happening. We also want the security of self custody, right? We don't want to be trusting third parties, but we also want some better elements of privacy, because right now I think there's absolutely zero privacy, right? But I think zero knowledge proofs can provide a way where we can prove certain things without necessarily revealing all our information, and how those applications can come to life. I'm not 100% sure yet, but that's what I'm most interested in finding out at the moment. Yeah, so that's what I'm really interested on at the moment, is zero knowledge proofs and how they are going to be integrated into the current system, because I think they are the next big thing, but I could be wrong.
I'll probably agree with you, actually, and I think that probably links into identity. I think that's one of the things that I've been thinking about is this concept of soul-bound tokens, where you've got a whole bunch of metadata about an individual, but you don't want to necessarily disclose that to, I guess, a third-party application to sort of read that, right? I think the one that they sort of bring up quite often is like, well, you go into a gambling website. First question is are you over 21? If there is a issuer of an NFT that verifies that you are over 21, you can get access, but you don't have to give them your date of birth. But you can apply that to so many different things, right? And qualifications. If you were a sophisticated investor, you could basically access institutional grade funds without actually doing KYC and the like too, right? So 100%, I think, besides all the FUD that's going on in the space around, crypto as a Ponzi, I am optimistic that hopefully we can find a way forward for this technology.
Yeah, and like,
one of them.
Again, this is a super cynical take on my side, but I do think just give it time, and there's going to be a new Ponzi. Like, in a few years, there's going to be a new Ponzi, and there's going to be a new person that's idolized across crypto Twitter as the new god of this new, probably, chain that everybody is going to idolize. And I don't know, unless it's genuinely big bidders from institutional money coming in. I don't know, but like, I'm quite confident that good times will come back. How long that takes, I don't know. Maybe a few years. Maybe the bottom is in. Who knows? I've never seen so much fear and uncertainty and cries of despair on my timeline as I have right now. So if you are a contrarian, everyone's bullish at 69k, right? Everyone's talking about 10k ETH soon, and sentiment couldn't be more bearish right now. And we're touching like lows, and I just think, yep, this is human nature. This is the same thing playing out as it did last cycle with capitulation at 3k Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't know. But also what I'm working on at the moment is because like I learn as I go, right? And when I first got into this, I thought CryptoPunks were the first ever NFT, and I was totally naive. Like I thought they were the very first ever NFT, and then I go into the whole I guess learning aspect of it all, and trying to basically understand the history of, okay, how did we get to here? What came before us? And then I realized, oh God, I really don't know anything about this space. And to this day, I still don't think a lot of NFT collectors really care, which is fine. Like that's fine, or want to know about the past of how we got to where we are. And the main focus is the current thing. Like, what's the new drop? What's the recent 10k PFP project? And I really don't care about that anymore. Like I really also in the current market, those things are no longer really successful, right? It's fine when things are hot and speculative, but I think that's finally the air has finally been blown out of the room there.
Well, why don't we unpack that a little bit? Could you share with us, I guess, what was your first NFT that you bought, and when was that?
Yeah, my first NFT that I bought was a CryptoPunk late 2020. I think the floor was about 3 ETH at the time, around there.
Wow. Right.
But and it was just buy one and just to own it, like that was it. Never really expected much other than that, to be honest. I genuinely part of a digital identity. Like I wanted a new profile picture, and I thought, oh, this might be cool.
Right. So how did you maybe just go back a step then? How did you hear about CryptoPunks that led you along that path
Literally saw them
to?
on Twitter, just scrolling through Twitter one day, and stumbled across them the first time. Like, oh yeah, they look kind of cool. Rather expensive for a picture that I can right click save, but look cool. And then I see them again, and I'm like, all right, what the hell is this? Right, so you buy pictures, but you can prove that you own them, and then wrapping your head around the concept of digital ownership, which I clicked with me relatively quickly, I must say. Um, like I genuinely understand why people don't get it. Like I understand, like you can right click save, and it is going to be the exact same image quality, indistinguishable from the NFT. However, you can't prove you own it. Similar to if I walk into an art gallery and if there's a replica of Mona Lisa on the wall, I won't know the difference. Like, however, the provenance thing is interesting with NFTs because you can prove you own it, which is the benefit of it. Plus, if we're going to be shallow about it, like if you want to flex, like there's no better way to flex than through NFTs. Like if you want to buy a Lambo, they got to see you driving it. If you want to flex an NFT, it's forever online. Anybody who's on your social media sites can use it. So, and I understand how shallow human nature is, I guess. So I could see the aspect, the the appeal of NFTs for that specific use case, but also for literally proof of ownership of anything digital, right? The long term things, like basically everything. I'm like, then you get a little bit too excited, and you're like, oh, everything is going to be an NFT. And then you got to go, okay, rein it back a bit, right? This is going to take maybe
So
not the best way.
Fanta, that was a pretty early purchase, right? So if that was late 2020. That's relatively early for 3.5 ETH or whatever it was that you bought it for. What was going through your mind at that time? If this was your first purchase as an NFT, and I think to go through those principles that you sort of spoke about around digital ownership, digital assets, was that a hard thing for you to sort of break through, or was that a relatively simple concept for you to, jump on board with?
It was a simple concept, but was difficult was the uh, price at which things were trading at. I couldn't understand that. I thought they were overvalued even at $1,000. Like I was like, okay, I totally understand digital ownership, but why why are people buying them for this price? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that at all, and
Yeah.
I was totally wrong, right? Because little did I know that it was just the beginning of the whole hype craze. But it was a hype craze, and it is a hype craze in general, right? There are a handful of NFTs that I think will stand the test of time, but like when I scroll through the collections now, and they're down 80%, and I'm still trading for a couple of $1,000, and I'm shocked they're not at zero. Like,
Yeah.
shocked.
And what, I guess, walk me through your because I think you've got here your first punk was 3056. So he's got a grey forward cap, earring, and small shades. How did you go about buying this particular punk with these attributes?
It was the cheapest punk available.
Really, the floor
I
punk. Wow.
literally just bought the floor. So that shows you how inefficient the market was back then, if that was the floor punk, right?
Absolutely.
So, like, even at the time, I think I got a luxurious hat, a big beard for like not much more than the floor.
Yeah.
It was crazy inefficient. Like, that's
Yeah.
before Punk's OTC came along or anything like that.
Instead of providing
Um,
liquidity.
yeah, there was so many opportunities, and I instantly had my eyes on a hoodie. Like, a hoodie was my favorite attribute, and luckily secured one. And then I tried to develop, okay, what is my thesis for NFTs? And I was like, all right, I want to try and own the most um, relevant or first mover in a specific field, which I think might attain attention and value over time. Um, Cryptopunks were like the PFP play, let's say, or just the an early play, like a fine art thing. And I got that because of the network effects of other people um, who had them, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, okay, what's the rarest I can basically get my hands on? And at the time, it was that Beanie Punk, right, that I own now. It was the way I justified it in my head, like, it was like, okay, these are actually rarer than zombies. I understand it's a human punk, and zombies are, non-human, so you could consider them rare. I think there's something like 88 zombies, but only 44 beanies or something like that. It's the rarest
Yeah.
human trait, and like, this sounds so stupid to non-NFT people. They're like, "What are you talking about? Like, this just no one cares." Like, and you're probably right, but those of us who are deep into this do care about that stuff. So yeah, and then that's when I also thought, okay, like, what's the first? Like, I think Justin Aversano. So if I talk about some of my bags, let's say, and why I think they are somewhat significant, like Justin Aversano with the real community element involved with his Twin Flames project, and I think it's possibly one of the first photography collections as well, right? An autoglyph, like the Larva Labs created autoglyphs first on-chain generative art on Ethereum, I believe. And the thing is, like, I say I believe because every day there's a new NFT historian who comes out with a new project that they've found, that they've scraped together somewhere online. And yeah, I can talk a bit more about that in a while. But so an autoglyph, which I think is going to be, of all of the projects that I'm interested in, I think the autoglyphs stand the best chance of, um, yeah, I don't know, being
Vantiv, I guess for those listening, would you mind just explaining what an autoglyph is?
An autoglyph is the creme de la creme of generative art, created by Larva Labs in 2000. Oh, I think it was 2000. I'm not sure if it was 17 or 18. Um, but yeah, the Larva Labs are the same creators as the Cryptopunks and also Meebits, which you might be familiar with. Um, and again, this spark, like, using blockchain as the medium for art, is something that I think is the real breakthrough with NFTs as well, right? Because you can attach a token to anything, really, like, that's stored on some database somewhere or some server. But on chain generative art, I think, is going to be is something that is different and new. And that's why I wanted to join Fingerprints DAO, because they're so excited about those aspects. of art, and I think art blocks is really cool in that regard as well. Like, Snowfro with chromie squiggles. Again, I have a chromie squiggle because it's the first collection in the art blocks, and I think that will serve well in time. Like, the 10K collection is quite a large number, and I know you can argue about the pros and cons of um, collection sizes, but I think it's quite cool because there are so many people who are excited about it. Like, I don't know, I don't really have a strong opinion on collection sizes really. Yeah, and then I guess after a while I got interested in rare pepes, right? I wanted to mention those because I'm so shocked that, like, the amount of people that share and joke and use Pepe memes on the internet for how many years, I don't know, and then to be interested in NFTs and not be aware that these were like one of the first, not the first, but one of the OG um, collectible assets on there. Now they're on Bitcoin, they're on Counterparty, it's a protocol built on top of Bitcoin, and I genuinely think Rare Pepes were the first community um, project, a community in regards that anybody could submit an artwork, right? There was a certain rules that they had to abide by. They couldn't be offensive or politically motivated or something like that. There was a handful of rules. I think they were the rare pep. I think the rare Pepe scientists were either those who submitted the artwork or those who were on the team to select which gets accepted into the next series. But anybody, and you have people from across the world in 2016, so that are submitting these for fun, right? Like, there was no real financial motivation. It was purely for fun. And I think there's something wholesome about that because it was before there was real financial incentivization in NFTs. Now, I know that certain cards did trade at a premium back then, like Spells of Genesis, Satoshi card, and the FD card, and the card one series one of the Rare Pepe's collection, the Nakamoto card, would have probably traded at up to maybe $1,000 plus. I'm not sure, but that was, I think, the fact that anybody could submit an artwork. There's a finite amount of them. Most of them are trash, like, and will probably never find a bidder again, and that's fine. But just, I think that's interesting, important, significant, and for those reasons, I wanted to collect certain rare pepes, which I found appealing to me because I like to look at them and I'm happy to hold them. Yeah, so that's my take on pepes, I guess.
No, so Pepe's is like another rabbit hole. I only got into a little bit of Pepe collecting earlier this year. I think it was from I think it's the finance guy. He's another punk, so he was pretty big into Pepe's, and he just gave me a few pointers. But I guess for those listening, just to recap, rare Pepe's, what they are is I'm not sure if NFT is the right term, but they were
Yeah, fair enough. Assets on Bitcoin,
assets
perhaps.
on the Bitcoin chain from 2016. And so, we look at NFTs, CryptoPunks for 2017 when they first released. And so when we're going back to the historical books, what was actually first, if you can get rare Pepe's from 2016, that was actually a collected sort of item. And I think there's different elements of them too, right? There's rare Pepe's, which were released in different seasons, and there were sort of limited editions of it. But the very first one was the Nakamoto card, which I see that you've got in your collection here. That's probably seen as the grail of all grails when it comes to rare Pepe's, which has probably got about 100 ETH floor at the moment or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's just over 100 each floor at the moment. And then the problem with this historical stuff is if you tweet about it or you ever mention it, the amount of reply guys that will get back and say, "Oh, but what about this project? What about that project that's older?" And you're like, like, some just struggle to gather a community, and I don't think will be relevant in the future. I think the Pepes have stickiness.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
So,
However, I will say there's one collection that I really want to mention that I think are greater, Spells of Genesis, which were created by, I think it was a company, right? So these predate even Pepe's themselves. The first card issued was the FD card in, I think it was March 2015, and it
what
was a
are these? Sorry,
fundraiser.
what are
Pardon?
these called? What are these called?
Spells of Genesis.
Spells of Genesis. Never heard of this.
Yeah.
You go really deep, man.
Yeah, I mean, I went earlier again, right? I went back as far as the Namecoin blockchain in 2014, but I can talk about that in a while. But so Spells of Genesis, what I love about them is they're basically like some of these cards are a timestamp of a story in crypto history with some very nice art attached to them. So, for example, like the what's relevant right now with the recent scandals with FTX, there's something similar happened back with Mt. Gox when Mt. Gox was hacked. And some of these Spells of Genesis cards like document some events from those times, um, and big figures in the industry. Like the block size wars was a big thing for Bitcoin back then, and there's a card which is to honor that. And I think the artwork is quite magical. These are very much niche interest, I guess, at the moment. Like not like I'm shocked that like so many NFT collectors that would be considered like OGs in the space just don't know of them. I mean, I understand if you don't care, right? That's fine, like whatever. But to have not heard about them, I'm like, whoa. Yeah, that's interesting. But I really like and like the FD card, which was the first card, which is I think that's cool because it's first and it's as far back as March 2015, I think. But the second card, the Satoshi card, like the artwork on that, I think is lovely. It's like the first depiction of Satoshi. Um, and yeah, there's like, and what blew my mind, right, is the mispricing in the NFT market when, so there existed a period in time where you could buy either a FD card, a Satoshi card, or a Nakamoto card for less than the price of a Bored Ape. And like, there's 10,000 apes, and there's like 300 Pepes, like 200 of the FD card, and maybe two or 300 Satoshi of the Satoshi card. I'm not sure. Many of those are lost because the project launched in, let's say, 15, 16, and there's lots of wallets who haven't been active for 5, 6 years. Um, like I could be totally wrong, right? Like nobody might ever care about these things, but in my eyes, I thought these are super, super important and relevant, and were created super early back when nobody really cared about digital collectibles before CryptoPunks. But of course, I'm always going to be emotionally attached to CryptoPunks, given that they were my first NFT and got me into the space. You know, I don't hate like too many people pit projects against each other, whereas I think there's each one has its own unique. Certain projects can have their own unique element that's interesting without having to flood it against something else.
No, I really like your investment thesis in that really picking out, selecting culturally and historically significant, relevant pieces. Not all of them will be, but
No,
I
no,
mean, definitely, the Pepe's got a very special mimetic value to it, and I think, when I look at a lot of these collections, it's always really around, is there a reason for this particular collection to be spoken about in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time, right? How do you sort of draw attention back to that collection? And if the question's always asked, well, what was the first NFT, or, if there was some sort of mimetic sort of or meme that's been posted, and Pepe's is definitely one of them, that gets posted quite often, just for fun and shit posting and the like. All roads are going to lead back to a certain collection, and I think that's why, and that's why CryptoPunks are really special, is because I think, just going back to one of the things you said, in terms of why you wanted a CryptoPunk, was basically you wanted a digital identity, right? When you first started
yeah,
going on, and you found people started rocking these CryptoPunks as a Web3 identity. And back then, in I think late 2020, I don't think many people were doing that. I think people were still using, real photos of themselves, or something a little bit more abstract, but nothing like a real PFP play. And so, yes, CryptoPunks might not be the first NFT on the blockchain, but in my mind, they were the first PFP, that really drove the identity play. They were the first generative play, which inspired art blocks, right, as well. And so when people are starting to piece back what is culturally historically significant for all these beautiful assets that we're seeing on chain now, they're all going to lead back to CryptoPunks and autoglyphs, and to some
yeah, I
extent
agree.
the
I
red
agree.
peppers. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think like if I was to be put in a coma for 10 years and was only had to hold, I would probably just stick CryptoPunks, right? Um, but yeah, I value these, and also like there's one other ninja suit, which is like a Bitcoin asset. So it was I was trying to find the first ever gaming token, right? The first ever, like, so if, for example, Ready Player One, the movie, I don't know if you've seen it, but if this sort of world does exist in the future, which I would not be surprised if it does, in terms of you're playing video games and the assets you own are represented as NFTs, and as you progress through the game, you might get, I don't know, like a new suit, which is an NFT, which you have your some reason, some way. I don't know who's going to create it. I don't know what chain it's going to be on. I have no idea what it's going to look like, but I can see how it would be possible, and that rather than the game owning your assets, you actually own the assets in your wallet and you have custody of them. I can see how that could be a thing eventually. I don't think it's anywhere near ready right now. Might be closer than I think, might be further away. I don't know. But then I was like, okay, well, what's the first um, incident of this happening? And there was a game built on the Bitcoin blockchain, Saratobi Island. It was like you're swinging from a tree to try and get Bitcoin, and you could use a ninja suit, which made it possible to either enhance the length of your jump or you could double jump or something like that. And like it's super niche. Not sure if anybody will ever care about it, but I was like, yep, I want to own this because I think this could be valuable in the future as one of the first gaming skins. Um, yeah. So these are like my plays at the moment. Generally, try to. You see, I'm comfortable. I can sleep comfortably at night with these things, right? Because they're valuable to me, and if they go to zero, like worst case scenario, I just lose money. It's like, and it's with projects that I like. Whereas I know, like, if I just buy the latest 10K craze, like, I don't actually like it. I don't actually care about it. It's not that I don't do that, and I will do that again when I think frothiness returns in the market, and turn on that trader side of my brain where you're just trying to flip for profit. But I actually don't. I don't know. I don't really care about that anymore, honestly. Like
Yeah.
I just want, I want to move on and do something a little bit more meaningful. You know?
Absolutely, and it does get tiring following all these discords and new projects all the time. And so I think it's a good thing that you're just, investing and buying things where you actually get a lot of enjoyment out of. So just on that note, then, like, where do you often find yourself hanging out? Do you just do a lot of solo research, or do you hang out in a particular Discord with a group of people that are interested in the same sort of collections as you are? Like, what's your sort of normal habits around this?
Yeah, Twitter, generally Twitter and Discord. That's it really. Like, and then you just go down a rabbit hole of a certain topic, find the leaders in that space, in that, or the experts in that particular area. Honestly, like anything I want to learn about, I find, try and identify the industry leaders and then see what they're looking into or what their takes are, and then go from there. Like, I don't know, like I'm just learning
Totally.
as I go constantly, like right now with zero knowledge proofs, doing courses on um the tech behind it, and I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. And I guess with having done number theory in university and stuff, I have a lot of the fundamentals where I can pick it up quickly enough. Like, I'm not exactly an amazing programmer, but um, I can I believe the statements. So yeah, I don't know. A lot of it's just honestly stumbling around in the dark.
And I guess in this bear market, is there any particular collections that you're looking at accumulating, or net are you
Uh,
just going
Actually, the
again?
Satoshi card is one that I managed to pick up, that I had my eye on for months. Like, and I've tweets documenting it as well. That I was like, there's one card in my collection that I really want that I don't own yet, and it's a Satoshi card. And I had, like, I promised myself, I put ETH aside, and I was like, this ETH is never to be touched. It's not buying NFTs. It's not buying any other JPEGs or altcoins. Like, it's just staying there, and I promised myself I won't touch it. And then somebody listed a Satoshi card for 30 ETH, which I think is like criminally low. And I was like
Man, when
sweating when
when was this?
this was maybe 2 months ago.
Wow, that's a
Um,
bargain. Jesus. Okay.
yeah, and like I was in I was in the shop at the time and like just dropped what I had into the car because I had to get to my ledger, like fucking breaking red lights, like just like get home, run up the stairs, like get out of my way, like I gotta get this, and like sweating in panic that somebody was gonna get there before me, but managed to secure it. Yeah,
No,
but like,
nice.
and like that might be like that might turn out to be a stupid decision. I don't know, but I think it'll. I'm happy with it. Glad I have it, but yeah, in terms of what do I have my eyes on right now, like the, I'm trying to think of the Gen Art stuff that could stand the test of time. Like, I don't have a Fidenza. I don't know if I ever will. I um Ringers are expensive. I don't particularly like them. I don't particularly like ringers. That's just my opinion. I like Fidenzas. They look cool. I don't own one. But no, there's nothing I would say that I'm really feeling the FOMO on at the moment. I'd buy more punks, I guess, if there's capitulation there, which I don't think there will be. I'd buy more crummy squiggles if there is capitulation. Um, yeah, that's about it. That's
Cool.
about it, really. I think trying not to overtrade. I made that mistake in 2018. Like,
Absolutely.
and it's a blessing and a curse that my bags are generally highly liquid JPEGs, like because it forces me not to trade, but at the same time I can't even if I wanted to.
um, and when you look back at your NFT career to date, do you have any sort of memorable wins or losses worth talking about?
Um, I guess wins was just being lucky with being early, right? Like, and I just like little, yeah, like it's luck. Like I didn't, I didn't predict anything that happened afterwards. Like I don't. I think a lot of people would be lying if they said they did. So I guess a lot of it's luck. Losses, yeah, lost a fortune regularly. Like I've gone minus 99% more than, nah, maybe not more than once, but one before. I've done it before. So like after 2018, like this is nothing. This is absolutely nothing. Like when you've seen $80 eat, like this is nothing. Unless of course you fell victim to any of the hacks or whatever. But if you manage to avoid those, and you're only suffering from your minus 60, 70% on Bitcoin or ETH, you're fine. I think that's just my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a reassuring thing to know that what we're going through right now is par for the course in some ways, right? On the way up. But it is painful regardless.
Yeah, and I think that's it changes with time, right? Like if you're like I find absolutely hilarious like when people with like $200 in their account are who are not into crypto and they would know you're into crypto, whatever, and they're telling you they're watching videos by Warren Buffett telling you about risk management and never bet more than 1 to 2% of your portfolio. It's like, dude, you've $200. Like you got to start gambling. Like you got to start risking. Like you're not like if you're only risking €2 or €4 on every bet, like no, like it's not going to work out. Like so, I think as your portfolio, like you need to go max risk on early if you're starting off with a little bit of money. And luckily it worked out for me. Sometimes I lost a lot of money, whatever. But then your risk appetite changes as your portfolio grows, right? Like if you're managing, if you're a fund manager and you've got 100 million or $1 billion worth of whatever assets under management, like you're not going degenerate gambling with that. If you're just somebody in university and you're getting involved and you've got a spare $100 to play around with, like, yeah, I probably wouldn't buy Bitcoin. Like, if that's your game, right? If you're genuinely trying to save, yeah, fine, buy Bitcoin, whatever. But if you're trying to make money, I don't know, it's a different story. So I think the your risk tolerance changes over time, and then you switch from a mindset of um trying to build capital to trying to preserve it, and that's a big mindset shift, I think. And yeah, that's something that just happens over time, I guess.
And if you were to look across, I guess, the Twitter space, do you have a favorite punk personality that comes to mind?
Like there are so many. Like this is why I'm bullish on punks as well, right? I can name so many punks that I look up to and champion the values that I associate with in terms of decentralization and self custody, and so many. innovators in the space, like guys who are at the heart of building DeFi protocols, and like people that you want to be associated with. And like that's part of the reason why I got a punk in the first place, right? And then you see someone, if they're like a scammer or something and they buy a punk, you're like, oh no, 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 get rid of it. But in terms of punks that I idolize, like there's so many of them. In particular, it will be Punk2670. He's not popular on Twitter at all. He probably has less than 1,000 followers. So this guy, right? This guy, without doxing or anything, he is like, imagine you're looking at punks in 2017. You can pick any punk you want. Like they're all some $100, and you buy one punk, and it's a stringy haired punk, and you just hold it forever. Like this guy's a legend, and was early to buy in digits, the ENS digits to match the punk. Did it like years before anybody cared about ENS and matching them with punk numbers. Um, yeah, so I really value his opinion on stuff, and he's a good punk, but not that popular on Twitter. Doesn't really tweet too much, keeps his opinions to himself, and isn't really engagement farming. Um, but I
No,
also think
cool.
ENS is an interesting play, right? Like I do own a 3-digit ENS name. FOMO in at the very top there. But yeah, I wanted to own one of those as well. I think ENS could be a play, but it's totally shallow, right? Like your thesis is just that rich people will want to own a 3-digit ENS name. Like it's totally shallow. But I can see the appeal in that when you see what other people waste their money on, right?
I mean, there's no different
Yeah.
from seeing vehicles on the street with
Yeah.
single or triple digit numbers, right? They're paying exorbitant amounts for that as well, and it's nothing other than a social flex for sure. Cool. And if you were to describe punk culture in a few words, how would you describe that?
Um, Innovative. A lot of the people in CryptoPunks are quite, they're builders, right? They make things. They tend to have their own opinions rather than just having their opinions based on other people. I don't know, like it's hard to describe it in words, to be honest.
Innovative is good.
Advocates, yeah, I mean, yeah, the culture is. I mean, it's tough as well with a 10,000 collection project, right? Because you're gonna have punks that disagree with each other too and have different opinions. But in general, as a sweeping general statement, I would say it represents part of the OG Ethereum community, right? Like a lot of the DeFi builders would own punks, and I think, and this is also something I value, is the people who are early to crypto that hate NFTs can mildly respect punks. They kind of get punks. They're like, all right, well, so if they had to own one NFT, I do think that they choose CryptoPunks, even though they hate the whole industry. Let's say in general, for some reason they don't like it. I still think they're like, yeah, right, punks, whatever. Like they're fine. They were early. They were kind of whatever. But so yeah, I don't know. I've really enjoyed spending the last few years getting to know other punks and like meeting them at events. It's always been super positive, super fun. Like I can't talk to most people in real life about this stuff. Like I can't have another conversation about banks adopting Ripple. Like I don't care. Like it's not happening. I can't have these types of conversations anymore. Whereas when you meet punks and it's like you speak the same language. There's something inclusionary about that, but also exclusionary because it's like another language that's evolving online, that only can be related, that only certain people know, and then you realize how deep the memes are. There's like you're 4 or 5 memes deep in something, and next thing you're laughing at your phone, and someone is like, "Oh, what are you laughing at?" And you try and describe what's going on, and you realize how deep in the rabbit hole you are, and like there's no coming back. Like you're just in another world now, and you're gonna really struggle integrating with society ever again.
You,
Yeah,
you've described what happens daily with me and my girlfriend. I'm just like looking at my screen sometimes and having a giggle to myself, and I'm trying to explain it to her, and I'm just getting this blank face.
yeah.
So I
Like I
just
walk
stopped
around the
trying.
street. I've been walking around the street, let's say, on the way to the shop the last few days, and I'm like, oh my God, like the whole world is burning because of this FTX debacle. And then like, and I see somebody with like a sad face and I'm like, oh, this person definitely lost money. Like he definitely lost money, when really like they don't care. And then like you're nearly jealous that they don't care. You're looking at them like imagine not having any clue. Like imagine just like, just going to the shop without knowing about anything like related to it. I was like, yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
So just another question too. Maybe it's linked to punk culture, but of all the PFPs that you've got in the bag, you've decided to go with a CryptoPunk. I mean, why have you used that as your identity?
I actually think, right, there's um recognizability, right? So I think there's going to come a time, like, I actually think Bored Apes are perhaps the most recognizable PFP in the world. Like, if you were to show NFTs to people on the street, I think most people not involved in crypto, I could be wrong, maybe punks are similar, but I think they'd recognize a Bored Ape. Um, but they wouldn't, for example, if you showed most people on the street an autoglyph, they won't know what it is. They'll just like, what's QR code? Like, what the hell? Um, so there's going to be NFTs, I think, which are going to be, let's say, a flex amongst general public, and then there's going to be NFTs which are a flex amongst the NFT community. So it's like there's levels to the game. Um, I use a punk because it is a profile picture, like it's like a digital avatar, right? Rather than having a classic LinkedIn mugshot. Um, and yeah, also because of the network effects of it as well. Like as shallow as it is, like I mean, once you see somebody with a punk as a PFP, you have a rough idea of what they're into, where they stand, and they're into NFTs, so you probably have something in common. Um, yeah, it's generally like it's like saying you're a member of some sort of club, right? I mean, it might sound vain or whatever, but yeah,
No,
that's kind of how I see
I
it.
think it's in some ways it's a signal of your personal values, right? In terms of what it
Yeah,
represents, and I think most punks, as you were sort of saying before, have come from the Ethereum OG sort of era. The builders, the innovators, the thinkers, and I think it's a signal of that in some ways too, right? So and that's definitely it for me. But and I think in some ways you were I guess you were trying to sort of say that as well, right? But
yeah. And like I've
uh,
learned so much from other punks. Like anytime I've met people and spoke to them, like they're just a fountain of knowledge for stuff that I don't understand. Or we all probably have different. We can get together on the single interest, but we all have different strengths in different areas, and that's what's really cool, right? Like some are privacy experts, some are DeFi experts, some are pure crypto native, like other into other NFTs, and some are more just like and even outside of crypto, like the amount of punk holders that are have their own businesses or their own startups and companies and stuff. It's just it's just having a common interest really, and being able to get together around that.
Mate, one question I forgot to ask you, not to sort of reopen another topic, but Fingerprints DAO, what kind of DAO is that, and how long have you sort of been in?
So I've been in. So I originally wanted to get exposure, let's say, to an autoglyph, but without committing to buying one at the time, because I was like, okay. So basically, I knew a few of the people that were in the DAO, and I looked up to them, and I wanted to be a part of the DAO because of that. Basically, right? I was like, okay, I really like these people. I want to find out what they're working on, what they're doing. They're like the second biggest holder, I think, of autoglyphs after Larva Labs. Not sure. I think the DAO holds like 27 or so. And there was like a lot of moon boys on Twitter about hyping NFT projects, and Fingerprints were collecting art, which was like they're like championing blockchain art, where art is the medium, and a blockchain was necessary to make the art possible, right? And I was like, yep, this is what I want to be associated with. This is the real innovation here with NFTs, right? Um, so yeah, they raise money through selling prints, which is the token to join the DAO. You need 5,000 prints in total to be a member. Um, I think that's been down significantly from when I entered maybe a year or two ago. But it's just I don't really see that as something to flip or sell in the future. I just want to be a part of that group, and it also gives me opportunity to talk to those guys that are in the DAO as well and get their opinion on different collections and art and stuff. And I really do value their opinion. Yeah, so I'm not exactly the most active. Should be more active, I guess, within the community. But I really like what they do, what they collect, and yeah, that's why I'm with them.
Oh, cool. And no, I'll take a closer look to them. I am interested in these DAOs. I just tipped into Punk Ventures, which is a DAO run by Tribute Labs as well. I'm just sort of curious about how this decentralized decision making sort of works and how that sort of evolves over time. But anyway, cool. And if you could pass on a message to the next owner of your Punk, what would you like to say to them?
Well, if you're buying it, you're probably overpaying, because I wouldn't be selling it right now unless I thought you were paying above fair market value. Yeah, just don't lose it in a phishing scam. I don't know. Like, I think as we transition to a digital world, which is going to be like, the concept of digital ownership is only going to become more popular in the next couple of years. People are slowly going to wrap their heads around the concept of digital ownership, and when they do, you're going to want to hold on to one of the earlier projects which became popular, and is a lot of the people involved have helped build the protocols that you use today. There's no other project I'd want to be associated with in that regard than CryptoPunks. So guard it well. Yeah, I mean, most likely it's going to be like, if I sell it, like there's people who say they'll never sell, right? Like if somebody bid 10 million on it right now, they can have it. Like, absolutely, I'll buy a cheaper one, like, and cash out the rest. Like, so I don't really believe anybody who says they'll never sell, but it would have to be, it's either the pico top of, it's going to be the pico top of the next NFT bull run, hopefully. And I'll buy it. So whoever buys it, the future owner of this, I'm going to buy it back off you for a 60% discount in 3, 4, 5 months time. Yeah.
Nice. Phantom, this was super fun. I guess any closing comments from you, and how can people find you?
Yeah, for anyone who's thinking of getting into NFTs, I would say, I think it was Art Nome who I'm kind of paraphrasing him really, and it stuck with me. It's like, buy art that you like at a price you can afford from artists you want to support, and you'll be happy. Like, that's all you got to do. Like, just buy what you like at a price you can afford from an artist you want to support. Like, it's all a win, right? The artist is happy, they've got a collector who wants to be associated with them, and do not expect any utility. Like, the utility play, like, I don't get it. Like, just buy art you enjoy. You enjoy to have it. Like, that's it. It's the art itself. You're not expecting a T-shirt or a lunchbox or whatever, but each to their own, I guess. But that's just my opinion, right? So that's all I'd say. And you can follow me, I guess, on Twitter. Twitter's probably the best place to reach out to me. Yeah. Thanks, Maxwell.
Thanks so much for your time, man. This was fun. And yeah, guys, this wraps up another episode of PunkCast for the week. And we'll be back next week with another Punk. Bye for now.